Hello everyone and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Ali.
And I'm Sarah.
And boy was it a weekend of football. I am so excited.
WSL is back. We had a Conti Cup Final.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to focus on today. We are going to talk about that thrilling Conti Cup Final.
Yeah, everybody's always like, just get to the football of it. So let's get to the football of it, Ali. They don't care how we're doing. They don't care how our lives are.
I will also shout out, like, my American friends, you will not be left out. We've got a cracking conversation with Jackie from Women Kick Balls, which is happening in the latter half of this episode.
Now, Ali, we're not dividing this between this is for the English people and this is for the US. This is all for everybody, okay? Come on.
So, this weekend, in front of 19,000 and odd people at Selhurst Park, the Continental Cup Final happened between Arsenal versus Chelsea. And if you had given me the odds of what would have happened, it would have been very high, because everybody thought that London was going to be blue of this game, but it was Chelsea's for the taking.
And it was not. Arsenal took it 3-1, and not only took it 3-1, but frankly put on a show and made a statement. This was one of the most fun football games that I have seen in a long time, Ali.
This is what you want in a final of some silverware. This is what you want, and boy did they deliver. So I have to say, it was a great game of football. Sadly, in my opinion, it has now been marred slightly by the remarks made by the losing coach, Emma Haye. She did give a longer interview, but the ones that people are really latching on to is the difference was a team that won a lot and a team that hasn't. They have won the duels and they were better at intensity than us. The best team won, there's no doubt. However, I'm disappointed with us. You can't concede 3 goals against a team that haven't won a lot, which they haven't, but they wanted more. Emma Haye, and that's like not it. There are others as well that we will get on to. But
look, I'm going to be a little controversial here, and not for the sake of being controversial, but because, and as somebody who I'm very outspoken about that, I love Arsenal. If I'm picking a team, it's Arsenal. I don't honestly see where the lie is. Where's the lie? She's right about everything. That's all correct.
It's the but they wanted it more bit that is getting a lot of people riled up, because she also said in the same interview that there was nothing she personally could have done. Her team were just terrible. And that she wanted to clamp down on goalkeepers' time wasting, which is fine.
Okay, I read the bit about goalkeeper time wasting. Let's do bit by bit.
Yeah, which is fine, except for, I have to say, AKB, Anna-Katrine Berger, is one of the worst offenders for goalkeeper time wasting. So it's like self-awareness, Emma Haye, self-awareness.
I mean, I got a lot to say about the keepers, including that I think neither of them had a good game at all. And weird moment to pick out talking about time wasting. I saw that she threw in Katie McCabe's injuries too, and I was like, Katie McCabe for sure got concussed like twice in that game, so maybe let's not include Katie McCabe in that. I guess maybe you can tell me what's wrong with Emma Haye saying that they wanted it more, because frankly that was a lot of I have a lot of takeaways from this game, but you can't deny watching that game that Arsenal were the ones who were in every tackle. They were giving that extra effort. They were chasing the ball down. They were high pressing. They were giving the effort that you expect in a final, and Chelsea weren't matching that.
But it takes away from that effort. This is what people have got a problem with, is, well, they wanted it more, because it basically comes out and says, we weren't bothered. We weren't bothered. We didn't really bother with anything. So we could beat Arsenal anytime, but we weren't bothered. We just couldn't be arsed, is what it's saying. It's what the British public is coming. And it is, and when you pair it with the other statements she has made about that game, it is coming out as very, like, we gave it to you, Arsenal. You needed some silverware, so we have given it to you because we've got bigger fish to fry.
So I guess there's two parts to this. I think, number one, deep in her subconscious, she does have bigger fish to fry, first of all. Second of all, I don't know. I mean, I read a bit of what she said, and I did catch moments of her giving Arsenal credit where credit was due. I get that that's what people are taking away from it, but I also think that there's truth behind her words. And she made a lot of tactical changes. Like she tried to give her team the boost that they needed to adjust. And I believe somebody asked her, like, what did Arsenal do differently? Because, this was the same starting lineup with the exception of one player that just played against each other, 2 weeks ago? And yet it was a completely different game. And Emma Haye specifically said, well, the only thing I can really think of is that Caitlin Ford was pinched in a little more narrow, and otherwise nothing different. So in that sense, I get what she means by like, it kind of is on us to figure out what happened. I don't know. I get why people are upset. As an Arsenal fan, it doesn't super upset me. Arsenal was the better team. Everybody knows that. And they did want it more.
That's my little gripe. Let's talk about the actual game.
Let's talk about it because it was so much fun.
Yeah, let's talk about the winners first. Let's talk about Arsenal because this is probably one of the best games I've seen Arsenal play this season.
I know, right? And it breaks my heart because I feel like every time around this point we see them play just outstanding. And you're like, where's this been? Where's this been all season? And, it was a cup final and it was mentality. And they really, the truth to Emma Haye's comments really did come out. They needed this hardware. That is the plain, simple truth. I mean, we can call out every single player on Arsenal as having an incredible game, but I think I want to spend a moment on Miss Kim Little.
Kim Little, and Jonas said it best. He said that she played the perfect game. And it was the best.
That's so true.
And it was the best game that she's played under him. And I 100% agree. Kim Little was captain and is proving again, time and time again, why you still need Kim Little in this Arsenal squad.
Yeah, I think, she retired from international play. Arsenal's been sliding. I think her performances haven't necessarily been sliding, but she hasn't been grabbing anybody's attention. She owned this game. She controlled this game. So many moments she had the ball, and I assumed she was going to go backwards with it out of pressure. And she found a way to turn a player, turn two players, turn one, dribble across, find a ball forward. She was going forward so much under the pressure, and she is such a reason why. I mean, this game was won because Arsenal controlled the middle of the field. Sophie Ingle never had the ball. Erin Cuthbert was going into 50-50 tackles time and time again, never could control the ball at her feet because Arsenal were applying so much pressure. Arsenal won this game in the midfield, and a lot of that was Kim Little. What a masterclass of a game this was. I would rewatch this game just to watch her for 90 minutes straight.
Her and Caitlin Ford. The link up between the two of them is textbook. It was just beautiful. You're talking about like she's managed to like pick off players and bring it forward. Her and Ford had this like telekinesis going on with each other in the fact that they were like, right, and so Ford was where Little needed her to be, and she was so unlucky not to get that goal. It was a fraction offside. But yeah, those two were my standouts, I think, which is...
I've been impressed with Caitlin Ford ever since Beth Mead and Vivian Miedema went down.
Exactly.
I think she's really... I think we've called it out a couple times already now. Like, she's really stepped up. And of course, but of course, Manham, who we've already called out as really stepping into that 10 role so wonderfully. To me, it felt like Chelsea were so focused on Manham because she's been creating so many of Arsenal's chances recently that they forgot about the others, and Arsenal were able to capitalize on that. Because of all the people, I would love to look at a stat sheet of who had the most touches on the ball. Manham was not up there. But Blackstenius, one of the best games I've seen her play for Arsenal in quite a few games. McCabe was on fire. I hope she starts from here on out if she's not concussed or have a broken foot or all of the many injuries that she's withstood. And I really want to call out Rafaele Souza, the Brazilian who they brought in. I think if it wasn't for some of the key tackles that she made, this would have been a completely different game because Chelsea has speed up top. And she saved the day for Arsenal many times, not only with her work rate, not only with her positioning, but also with her speed.
I also want to say a little class touch from Kim Little is that she called Leah Williamson over to do the trophy lift.
That's so
Which
classy.
is, you know, always the captain's prerogative. But she called Leah Williamson over so that they could both lift the trophy together. Just class. But you look at, like, defensively, you look at the stats. Chelsea had 14 shots to 8. But they got nowhere near the goal, really. Because if you look on target, it was 5 versus 4. So, again, you're talking about with Raphael, it was just a masterclass in football from Arsenal.
I couldn't agree more. I want to call out what I think Arsenal was doing really well in a form of a high press that we don't see a lot of from Arsenal. We see a lot of from especially in the international game, a lot of teams love to high press for the first 10 minutes, apply pressure. And Arsenal were putting on quite the masterclass on how to do that as a team because you were getting that work rate from the top, from Blackstenius all the way back to Leah Williamson. And it's not just about the individual work weight. They were moving as a formation together. It doesn't work when one of you is applying pressure and the other isn't. The fact that they were all putting on the high pressure the moment that Chelsea lost the ball, every single time, they were always under pressure immediately, forced backwards into their own half. And I think that's a great, that's a key reason why Arsenal won. And I'm also just going to add on that I think we need to talk about when we're talking about mentality and work rate. Let's talk about the mentality of Arsenal and what they brought to the beginning of this game. Because going down 1-0 in the first 3 minutes of a cup final, I feel like that's going to even be overlooked right now because of how incredible they played for the whole game. Let's rewind and let's just go back to that moment because that could have been the end right there.
Yeah, it is a complete mentality shift. I think on one side you can be like, well, you've got 87 minutes to fix it. Or you're like, this is the start of a drubbing. And to be honest, as a neutral, I was like, oh, here we go. This is Chelsea doing what Chelsea did. And I was reminded by a friend of mine, was like, well, this is what happened to Chelsea last year in the Conti Cup. They went up really quickly 1-0 against Man City and then lost 3-1 again. So it is all about mentality. And I think, again, it comes down to leadership. And it was this experienced head of Kim Little to be like, all right, guys, this is not ideal, but if we can get back quick enough, then it goes back to being level. And it was only like 16 minutes later that Blackstenius scored the equaliser.
And then we've actually got to talk about, it wasn't a lot of time after that until Arsenal went up 2-1. Kim Little buried a penalty in the 24th minute. Was that a good call to call that penalty?
Stonewall. It was a Stonewall penalty.
What does that mean?
Yes.
It's an English term. I don't know.
It means that it was 100% a penalty.
Oh, okay. Well, I agree. I actually fully agree.
It was just, do you know what? We'll talk about it when we talk about Chelsea. But this is a game that Sophie Ingles going to want to forget because she directly caused 2 of the Arsenal goals. The Blackstenius, the ball had deflected off of her straight into Blackstenius's path, smack bang into that top corner. And then it was a careless challenge on Katie McCabe. You are in that box. You cannot be going in as heavy as she did. And I know she was aiming for the ball, but the ball's already gone. You've got to do something. And it was a tactical foul that did not pay off.
I completely agree. For those of you listening who don't agree, honestly, it got pretty much like canceled out and made up for when Caitlin Ford was tackled in the corner of the box by Buchanan. A lot of people thought that should have been a pen. It wasn't called. It seems like maybe one of them should have been a no call, one of them should have been a call, and we got it evened out. I thought that the refereeing in this game was pretty good, all things considered. Let's talk about Chelsea.
So they started off obviously well, scored within the first 2 minutes. It was a great 1-2 play between Kerr and Brighton. Brighton getting into that space, seeing it, I think it probably would have gone in without Kerr's header, but Kerr made sure that it went in.
It would not have. Trajectory, it was not going in. But, Brighton was absolutely the star of the show for Chelsea this game. Sam Kerr doing Sam Kerr things, and she was able to create space, make movement off the ball, honestly kind of started that attack. And then when the ball came back in a beautiful cross from Wrighton. And they almost got another in the exact same way, Wrighton crossing it from the left side with that beautiful left foot, and Sam Kerr almost getting on the end of another one. But other than the two of them connecting, what were Chelsea able to create?
This was the most uninspiring play I have ever seen Chelsea play. It's the worst I've seen them since losing to Liverpool in the first game of the season. It was just, I don't know if they're tired, I don't know what it is, but they were sluggish, they were slow. You know, Millie Bright, who is normally an absolute demon in defence, could not get back for balls, was not her usual self. Like I said, they were lucky to it not to be 4-5-1, because it very much could have been. There was no firepower going up front in the end. You know, I think somebody asked Jonas, were you just focusing on Sam Kerr? And he turned around and said, you can't just make it about one player. But it seems that's what Chelsea...
Especially when Lauren James is flanking Sam Kerr, you know?
But it seems like that's what Chelsea were doing. They were like, oh, just get the ball to Sam and she'll do something. You know, get the ball to Sam and she'll do something. Whether it's
I think that they were cornered into that, frankly, because, you know, like we were talking about with Arsenal, every time they got the ball back in the midfield, pressure, and they were forced backwards. And I think that they ended up being forced into exactly what you're talking about, which is, you know, almost a counterattack over the top, one-dimensional long game, because they continuously were forced back into their own half. And, you know, Sophie Ingle, Cuthbert, they couldn't maintain possession in the middle of the field.
No. But I'll even say it was a poor game for Lauren James, who has been an absolute star both for Chelsea and England. She just was very off. It just wasn't at all like her. She had that one great shot, I think, in the first half, which was a ball that Sam came, but that was the last we saw of her. I forgot she was on, is the honest answer.
That's how I felt about Sophie Ingle. I forgot she was on, to be totally honest. I feel like Chelsea across the board were just half a step behind Arsenal this entire game. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly Emma Hayes doesn't know what that's about either. And I am so happy we weren't a player in that locker room. If she's willing to say those things about her players to the media, imagine what she says in that locker room.
I wanted to ask you about that, because do you think she should have said those things to media? Because we're starting to see that quite a lot with managers. We saw it with Carla Ward. We're seeing it with Gareth Taylor and things like that, where they're saying things that, should it only be in the locker room? Because at the same time, do you want a manager that just gives platitudes publicly, being like, oh, you know, it wasn't our best, you know, there's another game and stuff like that, when there's clearly something wrong? Or do you want an honest manager?
I want the honesty, but there's a line, and frankly, I feel that Emma Hayes walked it really well. I 100% believe that what we heard was just the tip of the iceberg of what actually was, you know, said in the locker room. So it doesn't feel like airing dirty laundry to me. I don't mind what she said, and I would be shocked if any of her comments to the media were a surprise to her players. To me, that's where you've gone wrong as a coach. If you're saying something to media and it's a surprise to your players, now we have a problem. I don't think that that's where we are right now. It's been very clear that you don't want to be in the locker room with Emma Hayes after a loss. And I just think that what she said to the media is such a fraction of what she said to the players. All right. Anything else about this game, Allie?
Just that I'm hoping Arsenal can continue it in the league and push on. And it's a big learning curve for Chelsea that, you know what, you're not going to get your treble, which I know you were aiming for. I know Champions League is everything for you, but you want that treble. There is something about getting that domestic treble which still eludes.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't think that this is going to impact Chelsea in a negative way moving forward whatsoever. I think that they're going to come back with a vengeance, just like we saw them do after they lost to Liverpool in that first game. Let's go around the world, over to España. Looking like there will be no Champions League football for Atletico Madrid this season. They are currently 15 points behind third place Levante, so despite the convincing win this weekend, it looks like Their season when it comes to Champions League is unfortunately over.
Over to France. The competition for the top spot is still fierce. There is just 1 point between PSG and Lyon, with both teams winning convincingly this weekend. These teams face off against each other in the second to last game of the season, and you can't help but feel that the league will come down to that one game.
Over to Germany. Wolfsburg suffered a rare loss this weekend, which has allowed Bayern Munich to close the gap. There are only 2 points between the two teams, and top spot is not guaranteed to the girls in green.
And finally to Mexico. Monterrey are currently topping the Mexican League with 24 points. That's 8 wins out of 8 games. Guadalajara are close behind with 22 points. Once again, the Mexican League is the one to watch in terms of firepower.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
We are here, everybody, with Jackie from Women Kickballs.
What's good?
Welcome.
Thanks
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like we talked about this for so long.
Yeah.
Now it's happening. So here we go.
Let's hopefully it lives up to everybody's expectations, including both of ours.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
All right, so Jackie, although I'm sure everybody knows because we were partners last summer and we shouted out Women Kickballs for everybody to go for NWSL and US Women's National Team coverage while we were covering the Euros, so they should be aware. But for those who don't, what is Women Kickballs? Can you give us just some background on what it is, how you started it, and why, like what the goal of it is?
Yeah, so Women Kickballs is an independent media company owned by me, myself, and I. And so, like, I've been writing about women's soccer for, over 8 years. But then I created Women Kickballs a few years ago. And, yeah, it's now my full-time job as I'm coming up on 1 year of being self-employed, which is crazy. But basically,
that's so awesome.
Yeah, how I'm able to, like, make revenue as a company is that I've always done marketing and PR in other industries, and I don't know why it took me so long to realize I can incorporate that into the sports industry. And so now I have clients where I do that, and so it's been really fun, very challenging, that's for sure. And so, yeah, I'm continuing to grow as I wear this journalist hat that people know me as, where I'm on the sidelines taking photos at games, doing different things like that. And then I wear this other hat of being a consultant basically for different like athletes and sports organizations when it comes to those different types of things. So I'm very, very busy and trying not to work until midnight. And so like the fun part about it though is that, for example, I just created a 40-page magazine on the growth of both San Diego Wave and Angel City's first year in the NWSL, because I'm from California, and so we've never had teams, which was a big deal this past season. So getting to be able to create projects like that has been really cool. So yeah, there's just a lot of different kind of components in there. But my main goal when I first started writing, and then of course with Women Kickballs, was to make articles accessible. I feel like we talk about growing the game so much, and like when I was younger and I wanted to look up like articles or research like different aspects of the game, I always got stuck with this paywall, like having to pay for a subscription for news. And I just felt like that was really like, I don't know, like it kind of turned me off to like wanting to read articles and stay up to date with things. So my thing is like, if we want to grow the game, then we need to make like news accessible at all levels. And so that's my goal. Like whenever someone subscribes, it's totally free. People get a sticker. They get quality news and updates. So yeah, that's like the fun part about kind of getting to change that aspect in journalism. It's actually like a very common business model of how people like are able to like sustain a business in the journalism media world. But I feel like for me, it's also the way that I get to connect with people the most. So yeah, that's like the Cliff Notes version, I guess, of all things Women Kickballs. But yeah, super excited to be here and just talk more stuff about NWSL. So it'll be good.
Hell yeah. And I guess tell the people how we got connected, Jackie.
Oh man, actually, I'm
How
trying
did
to think.
we find each other? When did our love story start?
I know. When did it? I don't know.
I feel like I'm third wheeling right now.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
I think it started with a DM from me to you on
Probably.
Instagram.
Yeah, I get a lot of DMs. Yeah, probably social media, which is usually how it starts. And then we met for the first time last September. Yeah, I went to
In the flesh, yeah.
Yeah, I went to New Jersey, New York for a game. We met there. That
I
networking
forgot
event.
about that.
Yeah, we took that
I was
picture on that Polaroid. I still have it. I should find it. It's so
oh my
funny.
God, can you send me a photo of
Yeah,
that? We're
I
going
will.
to post
You
that.
met my mom. That's, another step too. And then we saw each other again at the challenge or championship. I almost said Challenge Cup. And yeah, just that's how it's been happening. But
Then we went out for our first drink outside of the soccer world.
Yeah.
Some would say our first date.
I know, right? Just making progress over here. So
Yeah. Yeah. And now we're bringing Allie into the fold.
yeah, Allie's coming
We'll see
along
what
too. So yeah, it's been
So we'll
good.
see what happens.
So very quick, do you have a team you actually support, or are you like Sarah, who refuses to admit that she supports Gotham and is just like, it's a location thing?
It's the truth.
Oh, well, I don't know. I guess it's like a mix of both. Like, so I got into watching the NWSL because of OL Reign back in the day. They were Seattle Reign. If you're OG, you know that. And so I got into it because of that. I had like a mutual connection with the player. But then, like, being that I'm just all around going to 27 NWSL games and I cover 12 teams, I don't know. I'm kind of the person who's like, oh, yeah, I just want somebody to win, I guess, whatever. But it's hard. It's hard to, like, yeah, like want to advocate for one specific team, but then to like also analyze it from just an overall kind of perspective. So it's a mix of both, but I don't know. And being California, I'm around it a lot. So I don't know if that answers your question fully, but yeah, that's my thoughts.
Perfectly evaded it as a journalist.
I know, right? It's not the first time I heard that response. So there you go.
You do cover mainly Angel City and San Diego, so we're not going to say for you that those might be some of your favorites.
Well, I mainly go to those games. I do have thoughts about each of them for sure, but you just see me the most at those games. So, yeah.
So we're going to get into some of those thoughts. Going into this next season, which starts very, very soon, San Diego and Angel City have both made, obviously, off-season moves. They had very different inaugural seasons last year. So we want to pose to you. We can go Angel City first and then San Diego. Based on the changes they made, the season that they had last year, what do you expect from them this season?
Oh, man. There's been lots of changes, but I think like with Angel City, obviously the common thing, it's not like, it's just a hot topic of their midfield because you see how they literally had like the same roster like for so many games. And it wasn't really working. And so you're just like, are you going to change it up? Like, where's the creativity? Like, maybe one or two players to be moved around. But for the most part, it was very much the same. So if something isn't really working, you would hope that there would be changes. So, yeah, I have lots of thoughts on that. But, like, I think specifically with their midfield, they got rid of, like, 3 midfielders. And then now they're kind of, like, they just signed, like, Mackenzie Pluck. And you see kind of, like, some other changes. But I don't know. I'm just like, you really got to take care of this issue because that's like where a lot of stuff goes on the field. And I think defensively they're good, but I've noticed like their defense also then struggles because their midfield isn't the strongest too. So it really affects like all the positions on the field. So yeah, I don't know. There's lots of things to unpack, but those are kind of just like general.
How do you feel about like, I feel like the main criticism of Angel City is that they put a lot of money into a few players and then they don't have a lot of depth. Do you feel like that applies to the midfield?
Yeah, I would say so. I think in general, Angel City just has so much money that you're like, you don't have any excuse to like not put money into your like, training, whatever it is, or like signing players. Like they have so much money. So I always like,
you're in LA, you have money, go buy whoever.
I'm just like, come on. But I think with the salary cap too, I don't know what it's at right now, but I think it'll be interesting to see like just how they brought Neil Rubin last season and then boom, injured. So it's like, okay, then you already had Kristen Press who was injured. And so I think, and Sarah Gordon as well. And then like, who knows what is up with Julie Ertz and like what's happening. But I just think like, for example, Sarah Gordon's like, she's getting back into training. Like, I was just in a press conference the other day where Allie Riley was like, oh, she looks really good. And like, so there's progress there. But then I'm like, well, what happens with the midfield if you like got rid of so many and are kind of signing on like new people here and there, but still like that's a young midfield to have. So I think there needs to be like a good balance of that. And right now I just like, I don't know what they're doing. So it'll be interesting. I hope they prove us wrong with their results. But yeah, they definitely struggled a lot last season with the consistency and I think giving up too many goals. So I feel like you can only go up from there, as they say.
San Diego had a better inaugural season. So let's talk about my favorite coach in the NWSL and up there in top 3 of all time, Casey Stoney, and the genius that is San Diego Wave. What do you expect from them this season?
I was like so impressed with them. I feel like just blown away what they did last season. So I'm like, wow, that's going to be crazy if they can still like continue what they've done and then like make it to the championship or something, because they were so close in their first season. So I've always been intrigued like that past year of going to both of their games and seeing like the total opposite just kind of approach, style, results. And so that was always interesting. But I think with the World Cup this year too, it'll be just kind of another aspect to like figure out. And so I think Casey's done a good job of like signing players like Danny Colaprico and Rachel Hill and some of these rookies as well to really like have these key players be set up for when that World Cup window does come. So I see there's good preparation on that end, but of course you can't really like predict as much stuff of like all the specifics that's going to happen, because then injuries can come into play or other things like that. So, or other trades, who knows? So I feel like they're set up pretty well for where they're at right now. And that's what's like crazy, is just knowing their potential and like seeing that up front. So yeah, I don't know. She's been crushing it though. I was very impressed with her this past season for sure.
I was impressed, but I also expected it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
foreshadowing. You're foreshadowing some of what we're going to talk about when you mention like players leaving for the World Cup, etc. But I want to ask you quickly. You said a different approach between San Diego and LA, and the opposite approach. Actually, can you talk more about what you mean about the opposite approach for people who aren't getting like as much behind the scenes into San Diego and LA?
Yeah, I think like one of the first, because that can probably boil down into a few specifics, but one of the things that I guess paid more attention to in the past few years is like how do coaches and players, like how are coaches and players as people, like what do they actually look like under the surface as a human being, not because they have a certain title. And like with Casey, I just heard so many players, including rookies, who were just like, yeah, she's very open in her communication with me. She lays out X, Y, and Z and how she wants to help me. And so I think having a coach who's very aware of those things, both as a player but as a person too, like that's just mind-blowing to me. Like, I don't know, I feel like it should be the standard, but seeing just all the stuff that we've seen the past year or so with coaches, it's just sort of like, I don't know, I feel like it's so cliche to say it, but like such a breath of fresh air to see someone like her who's jumped into this league and is just like so sharp and is on top of it. So I really appreciated that about her. And even with the media stuff too, like I know journalists and reporters can have like a weird rap or whatever, but she is just so like on top of it, very thorough, doesn't like avoid questions or anything like that. Whereas like with LA, I think you've seen Freya's success previously with Sky Blue, and that's great. But I'm like, where is that success? Like, where is it like translating into this new like little like location and atmosphere of Angel City? So I don't know like what happened, because it's like there's so much good stuff that you bring to the table, but where is that actually playing out? So yeah, I think those are my thoughts on some of the approaches, just kind of wondering, like, what's happening. I think from what I know of Freya, like, she seems like a great person who cares about her players, but tactically, I'm like, where is the creativity? Where's reading the room type of thing? Like, where is that going on? Where's your support and your staff to, like, help you make those changes? So that's where, like, I don't know, some of it's kind of confusing on that end, where I'm just like, what's going on, Like, so, I don't know, I gotta make the joke of, like, you have so much money, like, can someone help you, like, figure this out? So, who knows? But those are my, I guess, basic thoughts on those two approaches.
Manchester City problems, as we say.
Yeah.
So let's talk NWSL in general. Obviously, the big news that came out this week is the signing of Chloe Ricketts, who is the youngest player ever to be signed in the NWSL at 15, which, to be honest, is mirroring the European model, because we see it a lot more over here young players. So what are your thoughts on this? Is this a good direction for the NWSL, or is it a little scary?
I don't actually like. I feel like neutral about this, or like I haven't. Like you've seen a few cases with like Olivia Moultrie and different things like that. So I feel like it's hasn't become so common when there's like 5 players or 10 players that it's happening to, where I'm like, oh yeah, I have very specific thoughts about this, because we haven't really seen it unfold in the long run, quote unquote, the long run. Like Olivia's been in the league for like a year or so. So I don't know. I don't have like hardcore thoughts about it, but I do think it's wild that Mark Parsons is just over here like scouting like young players and like seeing that potential. So again, being that we haven't like seen her take the pitch, like sure, that'll be different as to how it translates as a player, but for him to be able to have that mindset and that eye for it, I'm just like, wow, that's pretty impressive, pretty wild. So hopefully that's something where it really impacts them in a positive way, because being 15 is like crazy, thinking about like when I was 15 I was such a punk and like had no idea what I was doing. So like professionally, for someone to have that maturity and just diligence to do schoolwork and be a professional athlete, like that's a lot of work. So I'm hoping that, or hopefully, yeah, it's just something where she can kind of take that and run with it, and she has a good balance of like still being a kid and enjoying that, but then still like being able to pursue her professional career as well. So I just think it's something though that is going to be the norm like very soon. So I'm sure like in a year or two maybe we'll have more thoughts on it, because we see it play out a little bit longer. But yeah, I think the Spirit, they have a lot of good things that they're doing. So it'll be cool to see like how she fits in and adapts to that environment as well.
So we want to ask you around, you mentioned the World Cup is this year, and because the NWSL plays in the summertime, a lot of players are going to be missing from the league for a good chunk of this time. And there's been a lot of chatter in recent news, and also this is a conversation that Allie and I have constantly around the scheduling, because the leagues in Europe and the UK all align and they play their Champions League, and they're not playing when the World Cup happens. And the NWSL doesn't align with any of those leagues. So to play, a team from the WSL, even to play in the ICC where they get to play Barcelona, it's a challenge. And then it also is really difficult to align with FIFA windows, for example, this summer. So how do you feel about all that?
Well, so I have thoughts about in general the schedule, because this year is so weird. Like I printed out the schedule, it's 8 pages long. Like, okay, this is a bit much. And like just thinking about the Challenge Cup, the way they arranged it, I was just looking at it earlier today and I was like, this is weird. You have a Challenge Cup, which doesn't really need to exist. And like, for example, in the World Cup window, there's 22 games and 16 of them are part of the Challenge Cup. So it's like, but then the Challenge Cup is scattered throughout the rest of the season. So it's like, if you had this like schedule, like why not just make the Challenge Cup during the World Cup window and that's it? So you don't have to really worry about points and standings and things like that. But to have it spread out throughout the entire schedule is like, what's the point? Or like, why is it so random? Because I just don't think the Challenge Cup is like, I don't know, I just don't see the benefit of it. I know it got started because of COVID, which makes sense, but to have it like continue to be a thing and be like a preseason thing is like, okay, but then to mix it in the schedule is like, why are we looking at like games that kind of aren't really towards our like, end goal of the season, and now it's just a Challenge Cup thing? I don't know. I feel like it's gotten so confusing, but I think it would be nice to have it lined up and kind of be something that's more universal when it comes to other leagues as well. But I don't know. There's pros and cons to everything, so I'm just not really sure what their thought process was.
All right, Jackie, final question here. Full NWSL picture 2023. Who takes it?
Well, okay, how about, can I do overall, but like top 3?
Sure.
Kind of, okay. Because
like, are you ranking them?
Yeah, I'll rank them. Or like, I'll rank them in like potential, like of what could potentially happen. So like, first, I think, I'm not being biased here, but I think OL Reign, because they were so close last season, where like they won the Shield, they had great results. Laura just was crushing it overall. So I think that's why they would be like first on my list to like get a championship. It's been so long too. I don't know how many years it's been, but I just feel like they're constantly like, they have so much, and then, something happens. So I feel like they would.
You gave yourself away there, by the way, in terms of who you root for. You said I'm biased.
I know. Well, we talked about it earlier because when Allie asked me about team stuff, so I couldn't, whatever. But then to San Diego Wave, I think they would be my second option, because just last year, so crazy for a first year team. So I think they're close too. But then my third one, and this is kind of a random one because last year they were struggling, but I think the Orlando Pride have a lot that's going for them in terms of like they had
we love it. We love that you're saying Orlando.
I just think they're going to do some damage with like their like rebranding and their new staff and the players that they got going. So I think they'll be like pretty close, like a close contender, but I think the World Cup is just going to like throw a lot of things off in terms of people's consistency throughout the season. So yeah, I'm curious to see like what the Pride are going to do, but it seems like they've been like, I don't know, their off-season stuff, I'm always like keeping an eye out because I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Or like, oh, didn't expect that. So they're keeping me on my toes, that's for sure. So those are my three like options / I don't know, potential stuff that could happen. But I'm curious to hear either of you and what you think.
Well, I love that you didn't mention Kansas City because I feel like they're everybody's favorites.
That's true. Yeah.
Allie, what do you think?
Who's going to take it? Oh, I think it's San Diego. I think that Stoney's going to have had the being that close and having that almost taste of victory. She's going to want to push on and push hard. So I'm going to give it to Stoney and say San Diego.
All right, the one that I think we're all going to agree on is San Diego.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I have to pick a club that I root for, it's San Diego. And it's because of Casey Stoney.
And then when Stoney leaves, it will be a different club.
Yeah. Well, next year it'll be the Bay Area team. Then I'll really hunker down and I'll have a hometown team.
There you go.
Definitely San Diego. I think that Gotham made smart moves this year. And as Allie Long very clearly said last year, and so perfectly and eloquently said, well, the only way is up.
There you go.
And that's the truth. But I do think I think that Gotham will be in contention and could make the playoffs and then, do some damage wherever they go. I think that they made some smart moves in that regard.
But that's going to be wild, like, towards the end of this season, like, seeing...
Oh, in Kansas City. Sorry.
Okay, you are including Kansas City.
I'm including Kansas City.
Okay. That's a good one. Not going to lie. They've been close, too, where I'm just like, man, like, the championship, I mean, that was a letdown because I was like, oh, you got here and just needed to change some stuff in the game. But, I mean, totally a 360 from their first, season back in it, which was good. But, yeah, like you're saying, just the growth and the progress. Because I feel like for so long, you just heard of, the North Carolina Courage and the Portland Thorns were the top two teams, always kind of going back and forth. And now I feel like there's so many good teams that are mixing things up to where it's so unpredictable too. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, it'll definitely be a good and long year. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think Kansas City's here to stay because of the investment that they're making. Whether they win this coming year or not, I think they have one in their sights in the next 5 because of the investment and because of the players that they're going to attract because of that. Jackie, we've already spent double the time that we anticipated because it's so much fun and so easy to chat. Thank you so much for being on. For everybody who doesn't already, if they don't follow Women Kickballs, where can they follow you and Women Kickballs on the interweb?
Yeah, on the interwebs, I'm pretty much everywhere. Let's see, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Started doing some YouTube stuff this past year. So everything is just at Women Kickballs. Pretty simple. Yeah, I think Facebook too for anyone who's a little older or likes the Facebook realm of things. I use Facebook or Pinterest. That's super random too. But those are the ones.
You're on Pinterest?
I am. I haven't touched it in a while though, so I should probably add some stuff or update it. But I know that's super random, Pinterest. Yeah. But the main ones are for sure Instagram and Twitter to get updates. So yeah, that's where it's at. But thanks for having me. Love chatting. I can't believe it's already, like you said, over the amount. I didn't realize that. But you know what? It's all good. So appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. Everybody go follow Jackie on Pinterest at Women Kickballs.
That's the one. And that is everything for this week's WOSO show. As always, check out our Patreon. We have got unedited interviews up there, full access, everything. Also check out our socials. We post daily with various games, information, everything you could possibly want when it comes to women's football.
Thanks everybody for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks everyone.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.